Sırasıyla kendilerini kürsüye davet ediyorum. Öncelikli olarak Silivri Belediye Başkanımız Sayın Volkan Bey'i davet ediyorum, Volkan Yılmaz. Silivri bildiğiniz üzere İstanbul metropoliten alanının çeperinde yer alan ve tarımsal potansiyelini korumaya devam eden önemli bir yerleşmemiz. İkinci konuşmacımız Sayın Nihal Poyraz Temürcü, Tahtacıörencik Doğal Yaşam Kolektifi.
From the Wildlife Coordinator, he also has field work in food communities and ecology. Our third speaker is a food expert, Dr. Willem. Sorry for the pronunciation. And he's an expert in food chains and supply chains. And from the Netherlands, he has significant research. Now, I am going to ask them to share their expertise and experiences, and I will give the floor, first of all, to Mr. Volkan. The floor is yours. I'm sorry, I'm going to be turning my back to you a bit as I sit like this. Distinguished guests, first of all, I would like to welcome you all with my best regards. Today, we are going to talk about food, healthy, cheap, sustainable and accessible food, especially in the context of a metropolitan city like Istanbul, is very important. We as Silivri are in the peripheral area of Istanbul, and we have the potential to become a hub to feed the whole of Istanbul, whereas unfortunately in Istanbul's food supply chain today, we have a very small share. And we say our motto is soil, marketplace, and table. So it starts from growing the produce, selling it in the marketplace, and putting it in our homes, on our tables. Now, soil is so important. The supply side is impossible, and with increased industrialization, increased construction of buildings, it's becoming scarcer, especially amid the pandemic and wars. We are talking about grain corridors with Putin, with Erdogan, so as to prevent starvation for African countries. We should actually be ashamed of where we are heading towards as the whole world. And we know that for those citizens living in Istanbul or citizens living in metropolitan cities, they have to we tell them not to consume the produce that comes from miles and miles away from other cities. Instead, they should be able to access produce which is closer to them, which comes from the proximity, for much cheaper. Istanbul is one of the world's biggest metropolitan cities. We have a population of 20 million, and right next to this population, we have very good soil, like in Silivri, and people are not aware that Istanbul could be an agricultural city. A lot of people are surprised when you talk about agriculture or animal husbandry in Istanbul. So we as local administrators, governments, as mayors, we should not be hiding behind the pretext that the ministry should be doing everything, or that we should expect everything from the ministry. There are things that we need to do, especially for Istanbul and the district municipalities. Istanbul has to go back to being an agricultural city as it used to be in the past, and it has to do this in coordination with the Ministry of Agriculture. Now, there's a lot of figures that I can share with you. We have 546,000 hectares in Istanbul, and 36% of this is arable land, agricultural land. When we look at the animal husbandry and production in Istanbul, it accounts for a significant portion for the whole of Turkey. When we look at canola production in Turkey, Istanbul ranks 5th. For sunflower production, Istanbul ranks 12th. For cauliflower, it ranks 6th. For peas, it's 6th. For hazelnuts, it ranks 12th. For fresh cut flowers, fish, it's in the top 10. So we cannot think of Istanbul as solely comprised of buildings. We cannot govern it in that way. People who govern Istanbul have to be aware of its agricultural potential. So whatever that administration is, the metropolitan mayor and the peripheral mayors in the districts have to be aware of this agricultural potential and come up with an action plan accordingly. We, as the Silivri municipality, we account for 1/6 of Istanbul. We're talking about 890,000 square kilometers, and nearly more than half of it, that is more than 450,000 square kilometers of this area is arable land. And even if we solely focus on Silivri and apply the right agricultural policies, models, and use young farmers, women, I am claiming that Silivri's agricultural potential is big enough to feed the whole of Istanbul. So imagine right now you are putting tomatoes on your plate for breakfast that have come from 750 kilometers away from Antalya. And how does it reach you? It gets picked, it gets put in a cold chain vehicle, it consumes fuel, it pollutes the air, and that's how it reaches Istanbul. Whereas a tomato produced in Istanbul can reach you within a mere 2 hours. It can be on your plate from Silivri. So when we talk about the soil, the marketplace, and the table model, Silivri, Büyükçekmece, Çatalca, all of these areas are very important, and we are doing more than our bit in this sense. Since I took office, just so people in Istanbul can eat cheaper, fresher produce, I have been encouraging agriculture, especially for our villagers, to get them back into the agricultural cycle, and in particular young farmers, women farmers, so that they get back into farming. We have a lot of actions that we have taken. And so for us, this is not the ministry's duty. We have launched several projects today in Istanbul, Silivri. Among the local governments, we have the highest production rate. And the produce that we get from our agricultural activities is done using our local, national, domestic seeds. And we want to make this we want to make sure that it's a fair production, and we say that this production, whether it's agricultural production or animal husbandry, it has to be done locally. We have huge cities. Since the 1960s in Turkey, 15% of Turkey's population used to live in cities. But today, when we look at the urban population, it has gone up to 87%, and in rural areas, it has gone down to all the way down to 13%. And some part of that population is the senior citizens. So when you think of the rural areas, who's going to do the agricultural production? Now, on the one hand, imports have increased. We are getting drifted toward import-dependent system, and we experienced this in the pandemic. When we look at the countries with the highest level of national income, like the European Union countries, they had difficulty finding natural gas and food. So money, we experienced in the pandemic that money cannot buy everything. We can't eat the roofs of our homes. So access to food is so important, and we understood this in the pandemic. And when I took office in Silivri, first thing that I did was to determine the land available in Silivri. So we said that as the Silivri municipality, we will be doing agriculture. Everything starts with a seed. Everything starts with the soil. Once you plant that seed into the soil, whether due to globalization or the removal of borders, we have much easier access to everything. However, we know that some people have opted to import seeds, especially from Israel. But why is that the case? In Turkey, for example, you know, some farmers couldn't plant sunflower seeds. Do you know why? Because the main supply is the Ukraine. So our claim is, you know, like we button up our shirts in the morning, it's important to make sure you button the first hole correctly. We need to use our heirloom seeds, our original seeds. So as we have experienced in this current war, we shouldn't have these problems of this supply problem. And there's very interesting games when it comes to globalization. A country that exports seeds to you today determines how much production you are allowed to make. Or sometimes when you import these seeds, you see certain diseases coming about, and then when you do some research, you see that that disease was intentional, and then they sell you other agents for you to get rid of that disease, or they sell you their own fertilizers. That's why today, to save Turkish agriculture, we need to use our own local 100% Turkish seeds. That's why we believe in seed improvement, and that's why we distribute 100% Turkish barley seeds. So in Turkey, I have agriculture going on as a municipality in 4,000 kilometers. We give corn starch, sunflower as animal feed. Today in Turkey, when we look at the seeds, only 5% of them are Turkish seeds, 95% are foreign seeds. We did some R&D activities, and we, again, as the Silivri municipality, are the only municipality that has an agricultural high school. We have an institute, and as the Thrace municipality, we had a collaboration. We planted 8 different Turkish sunflower seeds, because I was curious as to why only 5% of the seeds are Turkish seeds. And last year, we planted sunflower seeds in 1,000 acres with 100% Turkish seeds, and we got very good results. And today, when we look at those huge global companies, we have nearly reached the same production rates. And in the 100th year of our Republic, we aim to further increase these rates. We had opposition. Everyone said our yield will go down, but I said that will not be the case, and we included 2,023 farmers. We gave 10 acres to each of them. The results are great despite the drought this year. We have a higher yield than the foreign seeds. So as you can see, we're producing the seeds and planting the seeds. So we produced more than 100,000 sunflower oil. We also have animal husbandry actions. Today we have the Turkish Meat and Milk Agency. If this agency were not to import meat, the prices would skyrocket. So how do we get ourselves out of this? We have to increase the number of animals. Istanbul has the highest meat consumption rate because of the hotels, restaurants, tourism. We're talking about a population of 20 million. But for us to access cheap meat, we have to strengthen the rural areas, especially Istanbul's peripheral areas. We have to support them, and we have to give a purchase guarantee, especially when it comes to animal husbandry. We have to pave the way for this. And first of all, by doing so, we have to stop the migration from villages to cities. Cities have become unlivable. I came from Silivri to this Congress Center. Silivri is such a nice place. We have lakes, forests. Nature is extremely beautiful, but cities are growing so rapidly. Today, Germany has a population which is higher by 10 million, but the distribution is more even, whereas in Turkey, the whole population, the most part of the population are concentrated in Istanbul, Ankara, Izmir. The rural areas are virtually empty. We are not doing agriculture there. And I'm going out of our topic, but we have to look at things from a broader perspective. I want you to see the big picture. So we have to reverse this immigration. Now, in Silivri, we have 18 villages, so rural life is a reality for us. So we don't only have the urban population, but trust me, young people don't want to live in villages any longer. They want to go to urban areas. They prefer working in a factory and earning a minimum wage rather than living in their farm and doing farming. As we have to reverse this, as Silivri, we provide all of the vaccinations for the animals, free of charge. In all of our stables, we have animal fertilizers, and it's a very difficult task for the disposal side of this. You need equipment for this, but despite that, we bought a vehicle to distribute solid fertilizers, and we support farmers in this way. So if there's land that the farmer is using, we said that, again, we collect their fertilizers, their bottom fertilizers, and distribute that. We have an animal market in Silivri. It is the only animal market in Istanbul. It's a modern facility. Our wish is that when animal husbandry, the livestock market, if people are dealing with animal husbandry, we wanted to bring them together in this livestock market so that they don't sell their animals for cheap. And I want to share one point with you. While institutions, I'm not going to talk about politics, but about how important it is for institutions to work together. One farmer said that if you don't have a slaughterhouse, this marketplace is meaningless, because the slaughterhouse is in a faraway place, they pay a high fee for transportation. Thanks to this feedback, we decided to build a slaughterhouse. However, to build that, you need approval. So I went to the Istanbul mayor, metropolitan mayor, to get that approval for a slaughterhouse so that farmers can sell their animal, get it cut in the slaughterhouse so that they can earn more in a more hygienic manner. But we didn't get an answer from the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. Then we said, let's sign a protocol between the Silivri Municipality and the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. Again, we didn't receive any response. Then we learned that there was a slaughterhouse to be opened in Çatalca, and we were told to wait. In the meantime, I also went to the Ministry of Agriculture and the Meat and Dairy Agency. And normally the Milk and Dairy Agency should have a slaughterhouse next to its facility, and we have a speaker from the Netherlands who will enlighten us, and we know that the best organization is in the Netherlands. They have the best optimal system there. So here, imagine I say that we need a slaughterhouse and a meat warehouse to be effective, to have an integrated facility. And if we can achieve that, then we are going to tell the farmers in rural areas, we are going to tell them that we are giving you a purchase guarantee, and we will give your animal feed at regular intervals. We will reduce your input costs, and using the animals that we buy from you, we will supply cheaper meat. So this is how we should create the food supply chain for Istanbul. Am I beyond my time? To wrap up, at the top, the ministry should have a coordinator role. Istanbul, we need a mayor for Istanbul who is aware of Istanbul's agricultural potential, and together with that mayor, irrespective of whatever political party they belong to, agricultural production should be independent from any kind of politics. So in a uniform manner, we need this structure, and we need a support or incentive policy which is fair, which is rational, and which will reverse this rural to urban migration. So we need to build this collective production concept, reduce the input costs, and enable farmers to sell their produce. We have to build this system. By doing so, Istanbul's population of 20 million can access healthier and cheaper agricultural products. And this will also make the peripheral areas more attractive. We have to make this system work. The Silivri model, we sparked the light, and we have taken on a role which is normally not part of our mandate. And I am really longing for one thing. We got 2 grants from the European Union. One of them was to increase the number of women in cooperatives, and the second one was right agricultural policies in line with climate change. And we also have an Erasmus program, which is called A Journey to the Heart of Olives. Worth 417,000 euros. On a last note, everyone should become aware of this agricultural potential and drive the correct policies to make this happen so that everyone can access cheap and healthy products. Thank you very much for your patience. I give you my best regards.
Teşekkür ederiz değerli görüşleriniz Katkılarınız için gerçekten Silivri Belediye
Thank you very much for your contributions. As the Silivri municipality, yes, it's quite challenging because you're taking on the role of feeding the whole city, but you're also in the peripheries, and you are trying to ensure the existence of rural areas in a metropolis. Can I take 1 minute? Of course. Now, we talked about the pressure caused by the metropolis. We are talking about agricultural areas being open to construction. This is the most challenging issue. For us to be able to produce, I mean, we are talking about soil, and we have less and less soil supply. It's our greatest treasure, but every day I see that there are new constructions made in these agricultural areas, unlicensed construction, because they are much cheaper. These agricultural areas are much cheaper for construction, and that's why people have unlicensed construction here. But agricultural areas are one day going to be much more valuable. And I am the mayor who has demolished the most amount of unlicensed buildings. And this is a huge issue, and we need to raise awareness around this. We need to prevent unlicensed construction in agricultural areas. We have a motto here, which I'd like to share with you as a note. So whatever the business card of the construction owners are, we don't care, and we just demolish their buildings. It doesn't matter who they are, and it is one of the greatest setbacks leading to the food crisis. I would like to leave the floor to our second speaker, Ms. Nihal, and then once we listen to all the speakers, maybe we can get some contributions from the hall if we have enough time. So the floor is yours, Ms. Nihal.
Mikrofona ortaya basarsanız
Teşekkür
ben de
ederim. Tamam. Merhaba.
Hello. How are you? It is the final session of the day. You may all be a little tired. I am quite tired as well. I arrived this morning here. And so welcome. And I'm happy to be here as well. I am coming from Ankara, referred to as Ankara sometimes. I'm going to tell you about Talya, the Tahtacıörencik Natural Life Collective. It is not a legal entity, and it is in the borders of Beypazarı. It's tied to Güdül. It's a village, really. The collective was established in 2013. I will explain when or how it happened. Does it sound better now? Okay, thank you. Now, the Tadia Collective presents nature-friendly products without any middlemen. And in food production, we adopt a holistic approach, and we think it's quite a pleasant model in this area. Economic, social, climate, and food crises are what we are targeting. I think it's a good model to create a holistic system in the rural areas, which is crisis resilient. Our story aims rural development, and we had a group of sister countries to put these into practice. And sorry, it was the sister plants group, not sister cities group. And we started production all together in 2013. And let me talk about our social structure. It's a little different compared to other food production structures because we are not competitive. And it's transparent, and also there is a participatory approval system, which we refer to as KGS. And I must say that we are a member of a network established in Ankara in 2019 about natural nutrition, and Tadia is a member here. So for terminologies like KGS, the Participatory Approval System, there is actually a glossary on their website. And we also attach a great deal of importance to diversity or having a variety. Of course, we are talking about local production, and we are talking about master seeds, and we are able to stand on our own 2 feet. So the entire distribution of tasks, from logistics to managing the production process, all the inputs and outputs and resource use and self-inspection, it is all done among ourselves within the collective. And there are 18 small farmer families, and I would like to talk about transparency a little bit. There's a website, and you can see what you need to do to be a producer, what the rules are, what happens in the case of violations. There are quite a lot of rules, and these are shared openly. So the producer and the consumer act together, and also they are able to communicate and walk around together. And there is not a goal to grow, but we want to expand and set a model. So the scale is different. It's human scale. And these small farmer families are supported through this system. That's what the intention is. So what does Tadia not do? It does everything to the contrary of the dominant food system. You can find all of this information on Tadia's website and on the DBB Natural Conscious Nutrition website. And I am here based on their proposal for me to be here. So you can definitely look at what the dominant food system is through their resources as well. Now, dominant food system consumes natural resources, ruins the structure of soil, and it damages living beings and natural cycles, and it also damages cultural heritage and master seeds. And we are talking about industrial agriculture, by the way, and the nutritional values are low. There is a high ecological footprint, and self-sufficiency and resilience and flexibility qualities are eliminated. It is not democratic. There are very long supply chains, and it is an oligarchic structure. It's bureaucratic, and costs are externalized, and there is a huge amount of production relatively at cheap prices, and it is intended for mass consumption. Now, as Tadia wants to have consumer producers, and basically we want the consumers to also be producing, and we want visibility around all these people. Of course, we need to come together at local marketplaces for face-to-face contact. So we want to meet people at these marketplaces, and we invite everyone. And we also had activities around building a food community. And of course, the rural and urban and human and nature relationships are being rebuilt at the local level, and the social structures are, or the borders between, urban and rural areas are melting with this prosumer approach where producers and consumers are the same people. And of course, we have farmer family friends that we are happy to have met, the Araç, Akgüz, Arslan, and Balballı families. And some of our producer friends have come and settled in villages from the urban areas, but most of them are from that village. I am not actually from that village myself. And the Cebeci family, they have been having nature-friendly production with master seeds. And the Çevik family are one of the first producers. They're quite a young family. Then there's a Durmuş family, Karaca family, Seçkin family, and the Kır Çocukları team, which is the team I'm a member of. Then there's Minaz Sağlam, the Toprak Tarım Farm, Uçak family, the Yavuz family, Yıldırım family. And we have frequent meetings at the village. You will see them for yourself if you ever visit. I would really like you to come witness it. All the decisions are taken through a consensus. And of course, there are a lot of consumers who have archaic knowledge, very sweet people. Dear Hava, who passed away, may she rest in peace. Then Meryem, Fatma, and Emine, and Ayşe and Necati. And you can have a look at a garden here. And there's the technical team. We have Hussein from the village helping with logistics, and accounting is undertaken by Adnan, who's also from a farmer family. Data entry, order entry, responding to inquiries, all of that is done with our three friends up here. I won't list all of them, and you can see the list of our data entry team here as well. And I think I ended early. That's a good thing. I'm very happy that I managed to do that. Thank you for listening to me, and please follow us.
Biz teşekkür ederiz.
Thank you very much. It is very nice to know what we're eating as consumers and to see developments towards this. And it is important to exchange know-how and experience to have more examples like this. And I would now like to move on to our third and final speaker, Mr. Williams.
That's a little bit strange. Maybe can you turn that around? Yeah. So thank you very much for inviting me. I am probably one of the last speakers of this conference, but I hope you're still interested to hear my story. I was very inspired by the presentation of the mayor, I should say, because it shows a clear vision about the potential of agriculture in a metropolitan area. Many people will say, okay, it is a weak party and we should probably get rid of it because other uses of the land are more profitable, but you gave a very strong signal that this is not the way forward, so I really appreciated that. Yesterday I was involved in a play about this. It's there, and it shows the complexity of the whole situation. It also shows the size of the whole situation. Later in my presentation I have a picture of the Netherlands, but it is about, maybe it is smaller than the Marmara city region. I really thank you for inviting me here. I also actually liked that you drew the geopolitical aspects of it, that you talked about that. So this is where I live in Rotterdam. It is in an old neighborhood neighborhood that is being rebuilt. And you can see, I hope I can show it, but you can see, no, it doesn't show, but here you have the bridge, and then to the left you have a couple of houses, and they have vines in front of them, which I got when I had my wedding, and many people in the neighborhood said that I would not be able to keep them, but then one evening I returned home from work, and there was a guy pruning my grapes, and I asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm Turkish. I am reminded, when you grow grapes, I'm reminded of my homeland. So, but you're a bad grape grower. I know how to do it better." And he was doing it better. And actually, this is my neighbor back. It's there, and he's using the backyard to grow food. Normally in the Netherlands you use the backyard to recreate, but so I gave him some of the grapes, and here is his wife harvesting the leaves for food. I don't want to I am really showing this because at that time urban agriculture and rooftop farming was very hip in the Netherlands, but the Turkish actually were doing it already. So this is the picture that shows that really, if you look at the big cities in the world, the Netherlands itself is a city, but a rather empty city. So there is still space in the Netherlands for food production, actually a lot of food production. You talked about the processing industry and the rest of the chain, that it is important in the Istanbul region to have that infrastructure. In the Netherlands we do have it, but it's oriented towards export, and we are also struggling in the same way as you are struggling with making it local. Like not everything is going to export, but we also want to feed the bigger cities in the Netherlands. This is a project that I was involved in years ago. It shows how an architect tried to solve the problem of the pig industry in the Netherlands, the manure and the methane emissions. The pigs had a really good time because there were on the balconies there were apples growing, and they could do their natural stuff, but of course that doesn't solve the problems of the pig industry. My research has been about, on the one hand, using these inspirational images, but on the other hand, being very practical and really where is the role of the farmer in this kind of construction. And there's no place for the farmer anymore. So in Rotterdam, we were once brainstorming, and you see there the green area, but it was made of plastic rather than real green. And the mentality at that time in our city, Rotterdam, was if you want to have a green city, give me a green paint and I will paint the concrete. So that was when we started in Rotterdam as a citizen initiative to talk about where is agriculture in this city and how can we improve living conditions in this city. And this was one area. This is an abandoned rail yard where we actually were able to set up an urban farm, really as an educational opportunity to show people in Rotterdam that what farming was, and also to show the complexity actually from mixed farming. Here you see all different crops. You see fish production, you see chicken production. Actually, there was a big problem also with getting the chicken slaughtered because the municipality didn't know how to license it. But this is one of the projects that I was involved in. It was really about reconnecting urban citizens with food production. This is another project that I was involved in, vertical farming. So if there is less land, you can still do multi-layer production. Actually, as you probably know, after the crisis with the high energy prices, this is not profitable anymore in Northwestern Europe, but it was an exciting perspective to feed cities. I am now going in a very fast-paced through the history of urban food production. But if you really want to know more about it, buy these two books from Caroline Steele. She is an architect historian in London, and she really showed how the first cities in the world were feeding themselves, and also what can be the solutions for the future. And I will try to improve on her a little bit. But the first thing is, maybe you know this, this scheme. This is a concentric model which shows that in the pre-industrial time, when there was no refrigerated transport, the very perishable and the very soft vegetables and fruits were actually grown in the city, and like livestock that could walk to the slaughterhouse was kept in the outer rings of this model. And so it shows that the high density of land, high density of living can go together with high density of food production. So in that sense, your ambition about Istanbul is historically also, it is historically possible. And here is of course, the very famous example that everybody knows in the world. And it shows here that food production in the city is still possible. And I hope to go there tomorrow, because it's a very famous example, and I've never been there. The organizer was asking me, okay, is this unique for Istanbul? And it's not. In the pre-industrial area, we also had strawberry growing in Brussels, and the strawberry were directly going to the Brussels market for 100%, and they were sold at in the center of Brussels. And also Brussels sprouts and all these other vegetables with Brussels, it showed that they had control of their seeds and that they were actually breeding the type of vegetables that the Brussels people wanted to eat. So that was pre-industrial, but I think it's interesting. And now we go to the industrial stage. In the industrial areas, the cities expand beyond the productive capacity of the hinterland. So around the cities, you have land that is awaiting to be urbanized. So farmers don't invest there anymore. They They go to the outer circles, and there you get a system that is based on long production chains, long supply chains, and world market orientation rather than orientation to the city. Of course, we all know the images of that new system, that industrial system. When you have refrigerated pork carcasses, you can travel them all through the United States, and you don't have to have a local infrastructure anymore. There's one big slaughterhouse in Chicago. For that reason, it was called Porkopolis. So it's also an enormous concentration of market power suddenly in the industrial area. I'm a business economist, so I always like to tell students that the car production conveyor belt is actually inspired on the slaughterhouse conveyor belt. Slaughterhouse conveyor belt was earlier, where the slaughterhouse is unpacking the carcass. In the car factory, you are repacking everything. So it's just the other way around, but it's at the very core of industrial production is the model of the slaughterhouse. So and this is how it looks, of course. You have agricultural production in Brazil, and you have agricultural consumption in Shenzhen. And now, from the consumption side, this I also think is probably interesting to know. You have, this is my favorite restaurant in Paris, Bouillon, it is called. Why is it called Bouillon? When the revolution took place, the cooks from Louis the 14th were going away from the palaces, and they were starting bouillon places. This is where you could choose 2 or 3 different bouillons, you know, like the stock from the livestock, and you could drink them, and that would restore you. That would give you energy again. This is why a restaurant is called a restaurant. So this is one of the first restaurants in the world. This is the first fast food restaurant here. the model was adapted because there were no cooks anymore. Everybody could do it. It was pre-packed. So you didn't have to spend money on cooks anymore. And also the waitresses were also gone because you were going in line to collect it from the... this was, of course, the model of industrial food consumption that really conquered the world. But now the question is, what now? We know what the problems were in the past. We know also that we cannot go back to the very small agricultural production inside cities. So how does the future look like? And this is the last part of my presentation. I will say some things about this. So first of all, this, you cannot read it probably, but this shows all the different kinds of food production that you can adopt in a metropolitan area. So there's much more types of food production than just the traditional ones that we have now. I will not go into details, but for example, the vertical farm that I mentioned, it is possible in modest climates to have food grown in vertical farms, but for example, people always thought that you could go inside the city, but for all kinds of logistical reasons, it shows that vertical farms are set on distribution centra of supermarkets. It appears to be the best place to start a vertical farm, so we're still learning where all these different typologies fit best in the urban landscape, but I think it's an interesting approach, and it is a much richer vocabulary than we had in the past. Then I'm going to the next slide, but it doesn't work anymore. So I was going to finish exactly on time, but why is my slide not working anymore? Oh, yeah. Oh. Okay, thank you. This is a study which shows at the red spots where there is an under-provision of food and in the green spots where there's an over-provision. And these are urban areas like London, Berlin, Milan, and Rotterdam. And people say, okay, so we need more food production inside the city. But I would argue no, because you get quite crazy buildings if you want to feed Istanbul from within the city. You get crazy buildings. So this is why I liked your approach and the approach that was shown in the Play the City game, which is at the metropolitan level you have to solve it. You don't have to build crazy buildings inside Istanbul to feed people, but you can just go to the farmers in the peri-urban areas. So I think that's a lesson we can learn. Then this is a greenhouse farm in the Netherlands, and I found out that recently he sold his farm not to his son, but to an international investment company who wants to rubber stamp the tomato production in relation to metropolitan areas. So this is a farm in the Netherlands, and they bought it, and they're going to duplicate it all over the world. So I think that's interesting, a new development that family farms actually become investment carriers, and that and this is used to feed metropolitan areas. This is an example that shows that it's not only about food production, but also about biodiversity and recreation. This is the Agripark Llobregat in Barcelona. It has a huge area, 7,000 hectares of productive farmland, and it is in combination with artichokes you see there. All the artichokes in that park are being sold to people in Barcelona, so they really eat the landscape that is surrounding them. Old farmhouses to the right above are now reconverted to houses where people can live, or hotels. I have still 11 seconds, so I'm going on. This is on the consumption side, a trend I think that is interesting. So we have this conveyor belt that McDonald's is using, but here the conveyor belt has fresh products, and as a client you can choose which of the fresh products you want to have in your salad or on your pizza. So it is customized to your order. And this is what I call the decommodification of consumption. Here are some chain models that are doing this. The above one is like the signature production of small-scale farmers and high-end restaurants, so they can make dishes of different kinds of products and seasonal products and all that. Then we have the slaughter line, which I already explained to you, the Fordistic. But now we also see that in car making, we see that the cars that you buy can be customized to your order. So that is the fast casual approach. And then there is this kind of post-Toyotism. This is where groups of consumers use the system to reach to groups of producers, and they connect with each other, more or less your model, but then also at a larger scale where you also use the efficiencies of the current model. That's the box in between, and you plug in your local module of food, but you plug it in the bigger system, because then you get the scale and the efficiency of the bigger system. So my last slide is about a farmer in the Netherlands that I have been coaching. He wanted to go around the dairy company, so we developed a machine to the left, you can see it, where he has robot cows, but the milk is being collected per cow. So it's going into these funny little bottles there, and it says on the label exactly what cow it was, and also when it was milked, and also it's going through an optical eye exactly the amount of lactose and the amount of fat that is going into that milk, so you can actually buy and choose the milk you like. And this is just regular cows. It's nothing like fancy and he's getting actually a higher price, and it was voted as the #1 innovation in dairy on the world 2 months. So I'm pretty proud that I contributed a little bit to this, the concept of this idea. But it's like this post-Toyotism to the extreme, where every bottle of milk tells its own story if it was a bottle of wine. So thank you very much for your attention.
Biz teşekkür ederiz değerli katkılarınız için. Tamamdır. Şimdi sözü dinleyicilerimize veriyorum.
Now I'll leave the floor to our audience. There is a question. I wish I had my glasses with me. It's from Merve Aca. Do you have any collaborations with municipalities in the peripheries, to our mayor from Silivri? And in terms of collaborative production, there are very important practices in place that will prevent food crisis as well. These are practices that need to be shared with other municipalities as well, and this is in line with solution producing cities and municipalities, that concept of MARUF. So do you have any collaborations?
First of all, as a civil municipality, we sparked the light, and as we entered this field, as a mayor, I was told, is this your job? You're going beyond your mandate. You can't do this. Municipalities don't have the workforce. Municipalities are cumbersome structures. People said these to me. But, as I said a while ago, urban agriculture has become so important, just like Mr. Jan Willem said. You don't have the chance of doing agriculture in city centers. You have to use the peripheral areas, and it's cheaper, it's healthier, and it prevents people from migrating to city centers. So peripheral agriculture, you have to make this sustainable. And to the person who asked this question, maybe you missed it, I always say it has to be independent of any kind of political narrative. it has to be, these efforts have to be in coordination with the ministry, the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality. We need common logic here, common sense here. And so people who own land, who deal with agriculture, farming, people ask me, when am I going to get a construction approval? Unfortunately, it makes us very sad to hear these questions, that people want to build buildings on their farmland. And in the future, I claim that farmlands will become more valuable than constructible land. So when it comes to seeds, we provide the seeds, heirloom seeds, seeds that have certified seeds. And right now in Turkey, we are the #1 municipality in terms of seed production. Certified seeds by the ministry's support. We are a pioneer. We have the highest production, and many other metropolitan municipalities or district municipalities, when we can roll this out to other municipalities, that will become all the more important. And we saw how important this is during the pandemic. So other municipalities can come to us. Please come and visit our high school, our agriculture high school, our vocational high school. You can duplicate these, you can copy these, and some municipalities have initiated these efforts, and it makes us very proud. And we are open to share all of our knowledge, experiences with each and every municipality. But I would like to reiterate that Istanbul's peripheral areas have the potential to feed the whole of Istanbul. So we don't need to bring frozen fruits or food that has been stored in warehouses, lettuce, vegetables from faraway areas. So let's support agriculture, and as Ms. Nihal said, let's support natural agriculture, then we will be self-sufficient. We are open to collaboration, we are open to your proposals, and thank you.
Teşekkürler. My name is Nergis Kayke. I'm going to ask a question and thank to Mr. van der Schans. He mentioned about the failed approaches of the food production for vertical gardens and why they're not affected because of the energy crisis and stuff. I think that's the important part, showing the bad examples also, so it will evolve and encourage people to use new techniques or maybe new approaches. And do you have any extra to say about those?
I don't want to be the person that is always telling failures, but it is true that I am working on innovation with farmers, and I always have to inform farmers that 9 out of 10 innovations will probably fail. So we have to learn. This is the big value of innovation. We learn from our mistakes. So if you do innovation, also do learning. And I was probably a little bit too simplistic about that there is no future for vertical farming, but still the business models that for the temperate zones where we also have field agriculture, then the business models are hard to come by, because the sun is for free, the soil is in a way for free, and in a vertical farm you have to pay for these costs. Sometimes that the increase in control that you have, because you can exactly control exactly when you grow. Like, for example, if you sell lettuces to a hamburger company, probably a vertical farm, because it is this industrial model to the max for food production, will work. So there are good examples in Copenhagen where it actually works, or and where a large Sodexo, a large catering company, they have a predictable demand, so you can actually make year planning, and these farmers out in the field will always struggle with that because the climate is changing, there's no rain or there's too much heat. So the more we get this crazy climate phenomena, the more probably the model of vertical farming where everything is in a closed box. But I actually personally hope that we get adaptations from the existing farmers and that they use as much as possible free nature, because I think it's otherwise to become dependent of financial institutions or venture capital. I'm an old-fashioned guy. I like family farms, but so that is an answer to your question.
Evet, süreye baktığımızda oturumumuzun sonuna geldiğimizi görüyoruz. Değerli katkıları için konuşmacılarımıza tekrar teşekkür ediyorum. Organizasyon için MARUF'a teşekkür ediyorum. Aynı zamanda çevirmenlerimize, hem işaret dilindeki çevirmenlerimize hem de bize spontan tercüme yapan çevirmenlerimize çok teşekkür ediyorum. Herkese iyi akşamlar diliyoruz. Böylelikle de günü de sonlandırmış olduk.